Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
I'm AJ Hoge, author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Just like a native. Join my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. 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 That's the website. Join the VIP program. We got some nice videos from our members that talk about their experience. Where in each video they talk about their experience with VIP and their improvement and their success stories. So it's really great. Thank you to all of you who made those videos. I've been a little busy the last couple of weeks. Sorry that I have been gone, but we're back today. Today we're going to talk a little more about the near-death experiences. It's a very interesting topic for me. I've been reading another book. This one I'm showing you on the video now. It's called The Light Beyond. The Light Beyond by Raymond Moody. Same writer as Life After... What is it called? Life After Life? I think is the first book we did. And I'm just going to read just a small section, a very small section of this one, The Light Beyond. And I feel like it's kind of connected to the Christmas season. Christmas season has started for many of us. For Americans at least. I'm American. The Christmas season usually starts December. That's what I always remember growing up as a kid, that we would put up our Christmas tree and decorations and start playing Christmas music. All of that would usually start somewhere around December 1st, right, or the beginning of Christmas. So I feel like these two are connected. These topics. Specifically, I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to read from this book, The Light Beyond. It's a section called Hope for the Grief-Stricken. Hope for the Grief-Stricken. And I'll explain the words, the vocab too, and the phrases. But I chose this, I want to talk about this because for some people, this time of year, Christmas season or even New Year's, just the end of the year, can be a time of sadness. Many people get depressed at this time of year. Maybe they're lonely, but especially a lot of times people get depressed who have lost someone they love or they're close to. By lost, I mean someone died, right? That, loved ones, parents, or others. And we will often think of them even more at this time of year because I think in most cultures, this time of year is kind of a time for family. Certainly in any cultures where you have Christmas, that's a family holiday, but also just New Year's as well, because it typically, at the end of the year, people get holidays from their work. They get vacation time. Often they'll spend time with their families. So it's a time where you kind of remember people who have passed away and died. And for some people, this can be a very sad time. So that's why I want to read and talk about this topic today, so that if you know someone who is sad, this maybe gives a little hope and helps you feel better. All right, let's get into it right now. So again, the name of the book is The Light Beyond. I'm showing it on the video. If you're watching on video, if you're listening only, it's The Light Beyond. And the writer's name is Raymond Moody. The Light Beyond, Raymond Moody. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs. I will read first, then I'll come back and explain vocabulary, and then I will discuss the ideas. It's very short. The deepest grief of all is the death of a loved one. For many, that grief is greatly relieved by accounts of near-death experiences. Okay, the deepest grief. Grief is like sadness from losing somebody, right? Typically from death. So he's saying the deepest, meaning the most powerful grief, the greatest sadness, is from losing a loved one. Someone you love dies. It's probably the worst sadness, right? Okay, next paragraph, paragraph 2. Very soon after Life was published, that's his first book, I got a letter from a family whose daughter had been murdered. Oh, God, terrible. She was a young, bright professor who had been killed by a burglar that she surprised in her home. She was an only child, and her parents had been living a hellish existence since her death. All right, so that's a horrible story. Okay, so this guy, Raymond Moody, the guy who wrote this book, he got a letter from 2 parents. And the parents, their adult child, had been killed, murdered. It was their only child. So you can imagine how horrible, how horrible it was for their parents. How sad and just how much pain they had. So what did they say in this letter? They said that when they read about near-death experiences, they felt much better about their painful loss. Okay, so they read his book about near-death experiences. Just to remind you, a near-death experience, that's someone dies and then they come back to life, right? Usually because of some medical help, right? You know, like you see in the movies, they die, their heart stops, and then they do the electric thing, the shock on there, boom, boom, you've seen it in movies many times, right? And then they bring them back to life. Then it happens in other ways, but most common is that somebody dies, their heart stops, the brain function stops, and then they are brought back with some kind of medical help. So that's called a near-death experience. So you can argue if they totally died or not. They obviously didn't completely die because they came back. So it's near, close to death, an experience of being close to death. So people die and then they come back. And many of them, not all, but many have similar experiences, which we talked about in the first book. And those experiences are very spiritual. They see a tunnel, light, they meet an angel or God. They describe it differently. They meet people they loved who died before them. They see a very beautiful place, heavenly or spiritual place, and then they come back. Okay, that's what happens. All of us, so this is the last paragraph from the book. All of us who research near-death experiences have stories about people who have been reconciled to the death of a loved one by hearing about near-death experiences. Let me just explain. That's a difficult sentence. So he's saying that there are a lot of people who research these people who die and come back. Okay, he's one of the first ones, this guy, Raymond Moody, who wrote this book. But other people do research about this. They interview people who died and came back. And he's saying that these researchers, they have this experience where many people feel better when they read about these experiences, right? People who, like these parents where their daughter was killed, or just anybody where someone you love died. When you realize that, when you listen to these experiences, you learn about them, and you feel better because you realize they're not gone completely. That there is some kind of life after death, life after life, right? He says, I think the experience makes many grieving people realize that death is a passage into another place. Even though events leading up to the death can be agonizing, once a person gets out of his body, there is no pain, and in fact, a great sense of relief. Okay, so this talks about one of the common experiences, people who die and come back, that some of them may be very sick. Some of them have car accidents, for example, and they're terrible pain. They're really terrible pain. But then at some point, like when they die, when their heart stops, sometimes before that, all the pain stops, And it's kind of like they leave their body, right? Their mind, their consciousness, their spirit or soul leaves their body, and no more pain. In fact, they feel quite the opposite. They feel wonderful. All pain is gone. They feel relief. They're fine. There's no more pain. That's one of the most common experiences for people who die and then come back, is that at the beginning of this, when they first die, pain disappears. They leave their body. All the physical pain and even emotional pain is gone. Another key thing, this is the second to last sentence. Based on the many near-death experiences, we know there will be a reunion with loved ones in the spiritual realm. Realm means a place, like kingdom or country or place. Okay, so spiritual realm means spiritual place. Some religions call that heaven. Some might call it Vaikuntha, or, there are different names. It's paradise. But spiritual realm, it's a place that's spiritual. It's different than here, where everything, the physical world. And that fact alone soothes many people. Soothe, S-O-O-T-H-E, to soothe means to feel better. It means, especially if you soothe someone, it means they're in pain, and then they feel better. You make the pain less. All right, so let's go now. Let's just talk about the main ideas of this. So just to review the other book we read, the common things that happen in near-death experiences. This is now like thousands of these experiences have been researched. Okay, so now, because of modern medicine, these are more common now. You can imagine maybe 1,000 years ago, a near-death experience was not common, right? Because when people died, they just stayed dead. There was no way to bring them back. They didn't have modern medicine. They didn't have, all these machines and drugs and surgeries to save people. So if someone had an accident and they died, they stayed dead. They really couldn't bring them back. So there are a few accounts, a few stories from, the past of people dying and coming back and talking about going to heaven or going to a spiritual place, leaving their body. But there are not so many of them because, it wasn't common. You can imagine, right? But now, because of modern medicine in the last, let's say 50 years, something like that, 60 years, 70 years, I don't know, somewhere in that range, this is now a much, much, much more common thing to happen. People who die, their hearts stop, and then they are brought back by surgery, machines, whatever, right? And so because of this, since the 60s, 70s especially, there have been so many of these near-death experiences. So now we have a lot of evidence, a lot of these stories. And people researching, like this guy, Raymond Moody, the guy who wrote the book, people who go around and they interview these people. And they're not all the same. They have different experiences, but there are some things that are very similar that happen again and again with thousands of people. That they tell almost the exact same story. It's amazing, right? And what happens? Some of these have actually gotten into movies now, and so you probably have even heard, you kind of know some of these ideas, right? If you haven't read about it. But what happens when people die? Well, they leave. First thing happens typically is they leave their body. What does that mean? Leave their body. It means they're still aware. They're not asleep. It's not nothingness. They're still aware. In fact, very, very, very aware. They can still see. They can still hear things. They're still conscious, right? So this, in other words, they're not just their body. You are not just your body. In fact, the body is just something we're in that we're using. But when they die, their heart stops. Often they'll talk about kind of rising up. They kind of come up out of their body and they can look down. They see their own body there. And they see the doctors working and trying to help them. They can hear what people are saying. And this is where the evidence becomes very powerful. They can even then they can move around out. They're not in their body anymore. They move around. They can go into other rooms and they can actually hear what other people are saying and see what other people are doing. And when they come back, many of them have said, yeah, I heard your conversation, and they tell them exactly what they said in another room. Impossible for them to have heard this with their physical body. Impossible. And yet somehow they did. Well, how? They left their body. So that's kind of step one that typically happens. And this can last for a while, where they stay kind of in this world, but they're outside their body. They can move around to different places, see things, hear things. Step two, they talk about some kind of tunnel, right? Some kind of tunnel of light. Sometimes it's dark, but they go through some kind of tunnel or valley. It's something like that, something long and narrow, and at the end is a light. Okay, so this is maybe step two. They travel through some kind of tunnel or valley or something like that. Something long and narrow, typically. Not always. Sometimes they just very quickly arrive. What's at the end of the tunnel? They come out into some spiritual realm. Realm is a nice word. I'll type it in the comments. R-E-A-L-M. It's a nice word. R-E-A-L-M. It's kind of like a kingdom or a physical place, a location. It's like a country or a kingdom, a realm, a spiritual realm where they describe. Typically, these people who died, they say this place, this spiritual realm is that the colors are like very, very stronger than they are here, and everything's much more beautiful. And they have different descriptions, but similar also, right? Like the details are different for each one, but the general ideas are very, very similar, and that's what's so powerful when you realize this is thousands and thousands of people having these experiences now, have had these experiences, including very small children, and, up to very old people, different religions, different countries, all of that. Very, very powerful. And then next thing that happens, typically, is that in this spiritual realm, they meet other people, other beings, right? And the two kinds of people they typically meet. The first kind is that they meet people they loved or just connected to who have already died. So this might be grandparents who died before them, parents. It can be siblings, brother, sister, if they died before them, other people. And so they meet loved ones that are reunited with loved ones in this spiritual realm. And then the second kind of person or being they meet is what they typically call a being of light. A being means like a person of light. So very bright. This being of light, they give different names. So this is where there are differences. It depends on the person. It depends on their religion. It depends on their background. Some say the being of light is an angel. Some will say it's Jesus if they're Christian, or even if they come from a Christian country background, even if they are not themselves Christian. Some might say it's Buddha. So I've seen some that say it's Buddha. You get the idea. Or a saint, or Krishna, the names are different that they give. But what's common is a being of light. Okay, a being of light, an angelic being. Typically not God himself, okay, but more of a specific being, more like an angel, and that they meet. And then what's next? Then they often have a life review. Sometimes they have a life review where this being of light, this angel, helps them look at their life, their whole life until they died, right? Until that point. And they kind of feel the pain they caused other people. They see all the kind of, bad stuff they did, and they also see the good things they did, the loving good things they did. And they're not these people, the people who died, the near-death experiencers, the people. They say that when they do the life review, it's not like it's very gentle and forgiving. that the being of light is not angry at them about the bad things they did. That, there's a feeling of love and forgiveness, and it's supposed to be about learning, right? And they say usually they feel bad themselves, but the being of light is very, very loving and kind. And then at the next thing that typically happens at this point, then they have to go back. They have to return to this world, right? Obviously, if they didn't come back, then they're dead completely. So for near-death experiences, they all come back. So they all have the experience of being told, or sometimes they have a choice. They say, I was given a choice. I could decide, do I want to come back or not? Other times, they're told by the being of light, you must come back. So either way, they come back, they re-enter their body, and they're here again. So that's it. That's the very basic steps of a near-death experiences, or of a near-death experience. Sorry. The details then can be different with each person, but those are the general things that typically happen. So, knowing that, when you read about one of those, I find it's quite interesting. When you read about 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, it becomes quite powerful. When you read about, the research with interviews of hundreds of them or thousands of them, it becomes amazingly powerful. Very, very convincing. And so, coming back to our topic today, and this what I read, that for anyone who has lost a loved one, someone you love has died, I recommend you read that book, Life After Life. We did the book club. You could just watch the book club if you want, that I did on YouTube. So go to my YouTube and find the book club. Life After Life is the topic. But I recommend you can read that book. It probably has translations in other languages if you want to read it in your language. Probably it's not super new. It's a fairly old book, so my guess is there are a lot of translations out there in many languages. So you could read it in your language. You could try reading it in English if you want. But I know this certainly gives me great comfort, with my mom who died. But I think anyone who you've had someone you've lost, or the other thing is that maybe you're getting older and you're thinking about your own death. And this scares a lot of people. A lot of people are quite terrified, scared of death. Or they're depressed about it. And this can also give you a great peace in your own mind and your own heart when you read about these, and not just one or two of them, but reading about hundreds of them, thousands of them. And you can find a lot of interviews on YouTube, even near-death experiences, and with people telling their story. And it becomes very, very, very powerful. And I think that you will feel much better, less grief. Just like the parents in the book today we talked about. This is horrible. Their daughter was killed, but that they had some comfort knowing their daughter is not suffering now, and she's also not gone, and that they will see her again. And it's not just some, fantasy story, but that there's actually a lot of evidence now about this. A lot of evidence, and the evidence just keeps growing and growing and growing every year, because thanks to modern medicine and science, there's so many near-death experiences now. And many of them are having these kinds of experiences and sharing them with us. And people are researching them. And the early research, a lot of the research was done in America because this guy, Raymond Moody, is American. But I think that now there are researchers in other countries that are doing interviews about near-death experience with people who have near-death experiences in many different countries. So it's not just it's not just America or the West, but everywhere now. All over the world, these similar experiences are happening. So very powerful. All right, let's get into our questions and comments. Actually, there was one good comment that I want to mention because he mentioned a movie, and it's Miguel Storms. He says, I watched the film Hereafter with Matt Damon and Cécile de France. It's a film like the book you recommend. Yeah, there are a few that I've watched. These are kind of, more Hollywood or movies, but about this similar topic. So I have not seen the Matt Damon one yet. It's on my list. I want to watch it. That one's called Hereafter. Hereafter. It's the two words, here and after, but just put together in one word. Hereafter means what comes after. What is next. Hereafter. That's a Matt Damon movie. I've heard is pretty good. Let me look on my Amazon and remember the titles, because I just watched a couple that are both about true stories, and they were quite nice. They were definitely more Christian because they're based in America. That's fine. If you're not Christian, it's okay. All right, here they are. Miracles from Heaven is a really interesting book. Movie. Not book, movie. Movie. I'll type it in the comments for those of you watching. So it's a nice movie. Miracles. And you can find this from Heaven. You can find that on Amazon streaming. You might be able to find it on Netflix. I don't know. I don't have Netflix, so I'm not sure. Oh, and then Heaven is for Real. That one's based on a book, so you can probably find the book too. That one's really interesting too. It's a really nice book. Heaven is for Real. So those are two nice movies I've watched recently. Miracles from Heaven. So Miracles from Heaven is about a little girl who's really sick, is dying. A little girl like 6 years old who's dying, and has basically a near-death experience. Doesn't die, but has a kind of a near-death experience, and then is healed. A miracle, because the doctors can't explain it. And then Heaven is for Real is about a little boy who I think is even younger. He's like 4 years old or something. And he has a near-death experience. And then he comes back and he starts telling his dad about, all these things he saw and what happened to him when he was in the hospital. And he was unconscious. He was in a coma for a while. And so he didn't die, but he was in a coma. Coma means like they're, asleep, right? And they don't wake up. So this little boy got really sick and had an infection and almost died. And he came back, and he's 4 years old, and he's giving all these details and descriptions. And the father starts researching some of it, and was amazed. And he's like, "Oh my God, this! There's no way this kid can be. This is not just his imagination. It's too detailed, and there's too many things that are true." So, in fact, this is one where the Heaven is for Real. The little boy he could see what they were doing in another room. He told them, "I saw you in this other room, and you were sitting down, and you were praying, and you were doing this, and you were yelling. And then I saw Mom. She was in this different room, and she was on the phone talking to someone." And so it's like, wow, amazing. So those are two good movies I would add. So we got three here for you. Hereafter, Miguel Storms has recommended. I'm going to watch that one. Miracles from Heaven, I saw already. Very nice. Heaven is for Real. Another nice one. So these are nice little Christmas, New Year's, end of the year type of movies, I think. All right. Fardin Moraday says, AJ, what is our next book club? I can't wait for 1984. I don't know if I'm ever going to do 1984. I find it depressing. And I'm not sure I want to do it. I think the main ideas of 1984 we have talked about a lot. We reviewed them in Animal Farm and in Brave New World. So to do 1984, I don't know. I think I want to focus on the more positive side. I think we all know we're living in 1984 now. We're living in Animal World. We're living in Brave New World now. So just talking about the problem endlessly doesn't help us very much. In fact, I think it's harmful to just focus on this is terrible, this is terrible, this is terrible. That's the first step. We need to do it. But the next step is, what do we do about it? How do you live in this 1984 terrible world of lies? How do you live in the empire of lies and still live a life that's true and good and beautiful and, virtuous? That's how do you have a good family, right? Those are the things that I think about a lot. So I think that's what I want to focus on. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Anna, good to see you. She says, I'm really excited to watch this movie. Yeah, those are both good movies. She says, I'm a bit late. I'm a fan of this topic. I'm about to find a movie. It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, there's a good one, too. You've told about it so many times. Yes, for those of you who want a specifically Christmas movie, it's very traditional now in a modern America to watch that movie. It's a great little movie. It's a Wonderful Life. That's a movie. When was that made? It's black and white. I don't know, 40s, something like that, maybe. So it's about a guy. It's a Wonderful Life. Is got Jimmy Stewart is the actor. So it's about a guy who he always dreams of traveling and living like an exciting, adventurous life. But he can never do it. Every time he lives in a small little town, every time he wants to leave his small town, something happens and he stays. And he gets older, he gets married, he has several children, and he kind of realizes, like, oh, he's probably never going to be able to travel. He's never going to be able to do those exciting things. And then he has some crisis where his business is failing, and he decides to kill himself. Decides to commit suicide, right? Jump off a bridge. And I'm not going to tell you the whole story. I'll just tell you the beginning. And then he jumps off the bridge. But then an angel, this guy, an angel comes down, and an angel's sent to help him because he's a really good person. He's just super depressed. So what the angel does is the angel decides he saves him so he doesn't die. And then the angel says, okay, I'm going to show you your life if you never existed, if you were never alive, what would happen, right? So basically, he shows him like all the good things he has done in his life. He shows him, you didn't have an exciting life, you didn't travel, but you helped a lot of people, right? So he kind of shows him your life is very, very good, but you're not awake to it. You're just too focused on trying to do all this exciting stuff, and you're missing all the best parts of your life. So it's a very nice message, and it's a very nice movie. It's called It's a Wonderful Life. Let's see. My name is Naoki. Hello, Naoki. 22-year-old Japanese guy living in Kyoto. Interesting. Recently, I have joined your VIP program. Fantastic. Thank you. Hey, that's great. It's interesting. This is a synchronicity. My wife and I were thinking of moving back to Kyoto. We live in Osaka right now, but I'm trying to decide, our kids are getting a little bit older, and we're trying to decide where to raise them, right? Where do we want our kids to grow up? And Kyoto's such a beautiful, nice place. I think it'd be a great place for them, and I miss Kyoto. I like Osaka, but I love Kyoto. So we're thinking we might move back to Kyoto. So, Naoki, maybe I'll meet you. Of course, Osaka and Kyoto are not far from each other. So, here's XESXLXE says, what about Existentialism by Greg McKeown? It's a great book. I'll check it out. I haven't read it, so thank you for the suggestion. Essentialism. Sebastian Ferrero says, hi, Jay. My best friend passed away 3 months ago. I'm very sorry about that. I can't even imagine what sensation he could have felt at that moment. To be honest, it scares me a bit every single day I think about it. Sebastian, read the book. Life After Life. Not this one. This one's good, but this is kind of the second book. I think you should read the first book. Life After Life. Do I have it available? It's somewhere back there. Anyway, Life After Life. I'll just type it in the comment because I think you'll feel much better after you read that book, Life, because you'll realize what he felt. You'll kind of, that's one of the great things about these books is you can read what thousands of other people felt when they died, and it's not bad at all. I'm sure it might have been. It's painful, maybe like he just said in this book we just read that before death can be quite painful, right? Some people have terrible deaths, right, where they're very sick and they're painful for a long, long time, and it's awful. But at the moment when they die, all the pain's gone, right? This is the first thing that happens in all these near-death experiences. The first thing is they leave their body, all the pain's gone. Instantly, no pain. Not just no pain, but they feel fearless. There's no fear. There's no pain. So it's a very positive experience. And that's just the beginning of it. It gets even better. But even the first part, they're not scared and they're not in pain. So that's the thing to focus on. So I recommend read the book, Life After Life by Raymond Moody. And you can also if you just immediately you can get on YouTube and find some channels that have interviews about near-death experiences. There are other books about this topic too. Nader Zakir Sultani says, I'm from Iran originally, but I have lived in the US for 2 years. I'm addicted to your videos. It's a good addiction. Thank you. Naoki says, I just watched your video called Follow Your Bliss. It's great. Thank you. Oh, cool. Olka says, when I was a child, no one believed me that I could speak English like a native. A year ago, I joined your programs. Since then, they have told me that now I sound like a native speaker. Cool. Very good. Congratulations to you. Anna talking about Christmas, I suppose, says, I love the festival atmosphere. Even the air is special. Yeah, it's a nice time. Even here, Christmas has become sort of international in many ways, for good and bad reasons. But the nice thing is, like, even here in Japan, like in Osaka, they put up all these really nice lights, and I took the kids to see the Christmas lights this year downtown, and it was really fun. Yeah, they were so excited, and so magical, and it was really great. I loved it. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, Matt Ma says, AJ, hi from China. Good morning from China. Please upload this video to your podcast. I will. I'm trying to be better about keeping up to date on the podcast. It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. So ESX, thank you for that. 1946 is when that movie's from. I was right, 40s. Anna says, I already watched your video, How to Make a Pomander 3 times. I'm about to do it with my children. Such a great little tradition. Yeah, it was fun. So our 2 pomanders, that if you didn't watch it, I'll explain. A pomander is it's an apple. You take an apple, typically an apple, and then you put cloves in it. You cover it completely with cloves, whole cloves. You push them in, and then you hang it up, and you let it dry. And it smells, it's like gives off a very nice kind of sweet clove smell, like incense kind of, in your home. We have 2, we made 2, one for each of my children. And they still smell great. They're hanging up, they're kind of slowly drying out. It was a fun little project that I did with the kids. I found it in an old Christmas book. as I'd never heard of them before. But then I researched online, and there's a bunch of videos on YouTube about how to make them. And you can use different fruits. I think the apples work better. I tried doing it with an orange, and it didn't work very well for me. So I think apples are the best ones. Use an apple. Talking about the World Cup, Flavio Aquino, Japan versus Croatia. What's your take? Well, I'm going for Japan. Japan has been surprising in this World Cup. Very surprising. Good for them. No offense to Croatia. I live in Japan, though. My wife's Japanese, so I think I have to go for Japan. Oh, yeah, Fernando Diaz says, this kind of topic reminds me several years ago I read in Spanish a book from Brian Weiss. Yes, I'm familiar with Brian Weiss. Many Lives, Many Masters. I was amazed when I finished it. I should read it in English. I have read that book. My wife loves that book. We saw Brian Weiss speak, actually. We saw him, we saw him twice, I think. Did we see him? At least one time we saw him speak. We did like a little seminar with him. Also a very amazing book, Brian Weiss. Similar idea. Brian Weiss interviews people about, he as you can see, Many Lives, Many Masters. He's focused on reincarnation and the evidence for reincarnation. So he's gone around interviewing people and even doing like hypnosis with people, focused on past lives and this the evidence for reincarnation. Very interesting. He's a psychiatrist, one of those two. Also a very fascinating book. Maybe we'll do it as a book club sometime. Oh, Amina says, please put your Matrix course on your website, because some people don't have any idea about. Oh yeah, I need to advertise it on the website because it is there. You can, if you join one of my courses, you can get the Matrix course also. That's kind of a bonus or like an extra. You can add it on as an extra. Oh, cool. Dr. Philip Gonzalez says, AJ, please do a show with the topic about parents. Yeah, that's a big topic. I will. You know, obviously I'm a parent, so it's yeah, I'll try to think of some parent topics. Obviously, I think there will be many topics about this general topic of parents, many specific topics. Olga Kleshnikova says, AJ, on Christmas Day, our churches in Russia are overcrowded. Many people go into church, and we celebrate this on, that's right, January 7th is the Orthodox Christmas celebration, January 7th. That's great. That's fantastic to hear. Yeah, I imagine that, you know, in America, it's a little sad. I'll be honest. It's a little sad for me about American Christmas because they sucked all the life out of it, right? In many ways, it's not as magical as it was when I was a kid. And it's, you know, it's because they took all of the religion and spirituality out of it and just tried to make it into some like shopping holiday. So, but when I was a kid, it was different. And it was very magical. There was something magical, meaning, like people were different during that month of December. People were a little friendlier, more cheerful, more generous, more kind, because they were not just focused on buying gifts and shopping. It was much deeper than that. You know, even people, you know, of course, Christians specifically, very much focused on God and the religious roots or focus of the holiday, but even but that influenced everybody, so that even people who are not specifically Christian, like my family growing up, they were not not really specifically Christian, but were still affected by it, right? So it still wasn't just about toys and shopping. There was something deeper, which has mostly been lost, I feel, in America. Not maybe certain families, it's still strong, but in the whole culture, I don't have that feeling anymore. Like Olga's describing, it sounds very nice that it seems in Russia it's still alive, and that's great. Yeah, that's right. Fernando Diaz reminding me about this Brian Weiss, because I've read a few from Brian Weiss. He's saying this is specifically about regression. It's examples from people talk about the other side, several of their past lives. It's very well documented. And again, there's some cases that he researched where they remember or they know details that are really impossible for them to know. It's quite amazing. It's quite interesting. Marco, again, back to the World Cup. Japan is doing great. Yeah, they've had a great World Cup. Good for them. Great for the samurai. The Blue Samurai, I believe, is their nickname. Anna says, does anyone suggested the topic, the existence of aliens? Do you want to discuss it? I'd have to read some books about it first. I don't know enough about it. It's fascinating. I mean, I think everyone's fascinated by the topic, but I don't know enough about it to, beyond, Hollywood. Wow, this is great. Farden says, I've been listening to you since I was 16 years old. At the end of this month, I will be 20. You changed my life totally. Thank you, my beloved teacher. Very nice. Very, very nice. Naoki asks, AJ, on Christmas Day, what will you do with your children and your wife? Yeah, so we've got this is an interesting question because growing up as a kid, Christmas was always the number one family festival holiday for me. I have a lot of good memories about it. That was the time of year, Christmas to New Year, where we would visit my extended family. So my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts, we didn't live close to them. So we would travel to visit them every year at Christmas. So, and of course, then we had certain traditions, as I discussed, right? The decorations, just the overall feeling of people being very generous and kind. The gifts, of course, as a kid, you get excited about the gifts. Just all of it together. Food, special foods, cooking, all this stuff. And you put it all together, and it's just such a nice, I have so many memories. So I decided, I want to do this for my kids because I want to continue that. And but I've had to think because we don't live in America, and even in America, that much of it's gone. But you can do this in your own family. So I've been trying to create some traditions in my own family. What are we doing? Number one, we're doing this cool thing called an Advent calendar. Advent, Advent. So it's Advent with an A. And it's basically countdown to Christmas. So I've got this. I don't know if I can turn my camera. I don't think you can see it. I'll pick it up and show you. Okay. All right. It's kind of big. Can you see this? It's like a Christmas tree. All right. So it's a Christmas tree, and then there are 24 little boxes. I'll just open one. This is tomorrow's. Right? So there's one for each day. So starting on December 1st, right? December 1 until Christmas Eve, December 24th. So each day you open one box. And what you do is you put little gifts, a little gift or something, some little surprise in each one. It could be a little candy or something. I put little stickers and things for my kids. So every morning now, starting this week, we come in here every morning, and each day we open one of the little boxes. They get really excited. It's just small little things. Like today is December 5th today in Japan. So December 5, we opened the number 5 box, and they got some stickers and two little candy things, 2 little jellies. So I kind of do little different things each day. Sometimes it's a little Christmas ornament, like a little Christmas decoration that we put on our tree. But I've got a lot of them, and then one for each day. On Christmas Day, what we'll do is we've got a little Christmas tree. They'll get a couple gifts, which we put under the tree. They can open them in the morning. And we have the little stockings, like the large sock. And usually put like little little small gifts or snacks or something in that so they can open that too. So we'll do both of those things for Christmas Day. Christmas Day, my wife's, is it Christmas Day or Eve? Anyway, one of those two, my wife's family, they're all coming over here. So her two sisters and their kids and husbands, and my wife's parents are still alive. So basically they're all coming into our small apartment. We're going to have let me see, we got 5 kids and a bunch of adults. It's in a very small apartment. It'll be fun. I'm going to make Christmas cookies with the kids soon. So that's another thing we do for Christmas. We'll make cookies. And yeah, those are the main things. Play some music. I combine music. We play some traditional Christmas music, and then we also do some what are called kirtans and sanatana dharma. I'm adding those. That's something I'm doing with my family. With their family, we dance around and do kirtans. Kind of fun. My kids love it. Marco says, I can't see any reason for us to return and live this life again and again. It makes no sense to me. Yeah, I talked to my wife about this. I said, I don't want to come back. I agree. I hope I can be done with it on this one. Not that I hate my life. I don't hate my life, but yeah. Once is, well, I don't know. Maybe already been hundreds of times. Hard to know, but yeah, I have no desire to come back again and do it all again. Now, this is a very good question from Naoki. This is a very good question. This is a question a lot of people, we talk about this. When I was a kid, I believe Santa Claus gave me a present. So did I. Do you plan to give children presents as Santa Claus or as the parents itself? This is a very good discussion because it is I would say, the most common for American parents is exactly what you said, is kind of to mix it, really. But to talk, say, there's Santa Claus, and Santa Claus brings the presents, or at least brings some of the presents. When I was a kid, my parents, they told me this, and I believed it. But they would do a mix, so we would have a big tree, and I got a lot of presents as a kid. I think probably too many. But anyway, some of them would say from Santa, and some would be from mom, from dad, right? So then I've had to have this question. Do I tell them this? I have decided not to tell them the Santa Claus. We'll talk about the Santa story, but I'm not going to tell them Santa Claus brings the presents. Because it's not true, and I don't want to lie to them. Because then later, of course, they grow up and they get older and they find out it was all a lie. Not a lie like to be mean. It's a fun story, and so I'm not criticizing anyone who does it. But I just decided for myself, I don't like that idea of. I think I can still make it fun and magical, and wonderful for them, but not. Without doing that, I'd let them know that presents are coming from mom and dad, and here's the Santa Claus story, and it's wonderful. But yeah, I don't want them to. It's important to me for my kids to know that I don't lie to them, like to grow up just that I can be wrong about many things, but I'm not. But I try to be always truthful and honest with them, as much as they can understand at their age, right? Flavio Aquino says, today I went back to the Catholic Church. Nice. I hope everyone here pursues their religions and traditions from their own country. I agree. That's good. Anna says, my grandmother told me that every Christmas Day they celebrated this day in a special way. Now it's celebrated in a different way. My grandmother always fasted. Now fasting is gone. Yeah, right. So that's another example, right, of these things that have disappeared. Some of these traditions that made... It's not just Christmas, by the way. I think many countries and many different festivals or traditions have gotten weaker, right, in modern times. For me, Christmas is the obvious one just because that was the strongest one when I was growing up as a kid. But there are others that it's a similar thing. Fernando Diaz says, nice, I love this idea. I'm talking about the Advent thing. Says, where did you make that yourself or did you find it? I found this one on Amazon. So it's an Advent. I'll type it in the comments, just in English. Advent, Advent, countdown to Advent means like kind of birth, right? So yeah, it's countdown. Typically they go from 1 to 24. So you start on December 1st, and it's great because it can be very small little things. It's not like you're not spending lots of money or anything. It's some little tiny thing, but it's something that kind of so for the whole month the kids get very excited. Like every morning we come in, we listen to some music, and we open the little box for the day. Today we did day number 5. It's really nice. I like it. You can find a lot of them, different ones. You can find, quite nice. This one's wood is really nice. I got a nice one because I want to use it every year. But you can also find ones that are just paper that you just use for 1 year. And then next year you buy another one. So there's different ones you can find. They're quite nice. Or you can make your own. You could if you wanted to. What are you drinking? Asks Nay Nunez. This is a coffee cup, but today just water. Just water. Rodrigo Ramirez says, is it correct to say Happy Christmas? Yes, it's totally fine. You'll find in the United States, we typically say Merry Christmas, which means Merry means happy. Merry, Merry means happy. But I know I've heard, at least in British movies, people saying Happy Christmas quite a lot. So it maybe just depends on the country. But Happy Christmas is totally fine too. Naoki says, being with parents in itself is a gift for the children. I think so. And, of course, being with kids is also a gift. Yeah, Nagme Mahdavi, Advent calendar. Thank you for typing that. Advent calendar. That's right. Am I watching the World Cup games? Asks Mateus Coelho. I haven't actually watched the games, no. I've been aware of Japan and their performance, but otherwise haven't been so aware of it. Haven't actually watched the games, though. I'm not such a soccer fan, so I haven't really. My, the one sport I'm kind of more aware of is American football, college, because my team is the number 1 team in the country, Georgia Bulldogs. They won last year. They were the champions last year, and this year, maybe, we'll see. They have a chance. Okay, Hayot says, I'm studying your course, but I'm forcing myself to study. I am not interested. Please teach me how to be interested. How do you make yourself interested in something? That's a very hard thing to do. It actually is quite tough. If you're not interested in something, how do you make yourself? Personally, I don't do that. So I don't know if I can give you advice about this, because if I'm not interested in something, I may try to push myself a little, but I also struggle with that a lot. If I really am not interested, I really don't care about something, I find it very hard to work at it or study at it or do anything. I can do it for a short time, but to keep going and going and going is very difficult. I guess the question is, do you really need English? More English? You obviously already have a lot of English already. So maybe take a break. Maybe you don't need English so much right now. take a break, relax. I think it's better to relax and enjoy it instead of forcing it. Forcing yourself, trying to make yourself be interested. I don't find it works. Maybe some people can do it. There's some people who really, they got great willpower and they can do it, but I've never had success with that. So I can't give you advice about it because I really don't know what to say. I think it's better to maybe relax and try to find something in English that you enjoy. Like, for example, if you like soccer and the World Cup, just listen to some World Cup games in English, read about World Cup games in English, and just do some, just try to read and listen to English about a topic you like and that you are interested in. Just do it in English. If you like movies, watch some English movies, English language movies. Yeah, Mario Lima says, in my country, Santa Claus is known as Papa Noel. Aha. I know that. In some countries, Papa Noel. Father Christmas. Mr. Cicero says, how to speak like a native speaker. Many people believe Americans speak fast. In fact, I'm not sure if, some parts of America, they speak fast. Not all parts. In fact, it's just connected speech, right? Right. A lot of times it's just the words get connected. And that makes it seem faster. Now, some people do speak fast. Okay. But like I don't speak fast. Just naturally, I don't. So it depends on the person. Varden says Americans don't care about soccer so much, I guess. In general, that's true. It's just that soccer, what most people call football, is just not as popular in America. As a spectator sport, a lot of people play soccer in America as kids, but in terms of watching it, not so much because there are already other sports that are more popular and bigger. American football, gridiron. Some people call it gridiron, but we call it football. Football, American football, baseball, basketball are the big three. Even hockey is bigger than soccer. So there's 4 other sports, professional sports, that are bigger than soccer in the United States. And it's even worse because for American football and basketball, there's professional and college, and they're both very big. And very popular. So American football's big, but there's 2. There's the professional league. A lot of people like it. But a lot of people also like the college. Same with basketball. So that's a whole lot of sports on TV that people are watching, mostly TV, that are much more popular than soccer. So there's just not a lot of attention to soccer in the United States. Not at that level. It's in the United States, soccer is more of seen as more like a kids game, meaning a lot of kids play it, but they don't. But for high level college and professional, it's just not as serious. Now Japan, I guess soccer is probably number 2 in Japan. Baseball's number 1. Japanese are really good in baseball. A lot of high level. In fact, right now, probably the best baseball player in the world is Japanese, Otani. He's amazing. So Japan's so strong in baseball, but they obviously have a good soccer team too. Oh, Naoki says, I'm so looking forward to getting married and having a kid, even though I'm 22 years old. Because of you, I found purpose now, which is God, spirituality, philosophy, and religion. Family is going to be awesome, Naoki. That's awesome. Hey, we can meet sometime, by the way. I hope so. You're in Kyoto, so that's not far. Maybe we could meet in Osaka sometime for coffee. Or if I move to Kyoto, we're not moving now. It would be in the next maybe couple years. So we're thinking of moving back to Kyoto in a year or 2. maybe buying a house there. So we'll see. Flavio Aquino, why is the World Cup promoting the all the sexual, lesbian, homosexual stuff? Because you live in 1984. You live in Brave New World. That's why they're promoting it. It has nothing to do with soccer, obviously. So why are they doing it? It's a very good question. You got to think about it. OD asks, AJ, what is your opinion about graded readers when learning English? I think they're great. What are some of the best of them? I don't know. There's different companies have them. Graded readers are like they're stories in English that you read, obviously. They are graded means they make them easier, typically. So, for example, you might have War and Peace. Obviously, the English translation, okay? But you might have the main English translation, War and Peace, right? Or let's use something that's already English. What's a famous book in English? The Sun Also Rises, okay? Hemingway. The Sun Also Rises. You could read that original book, the one that Hemingway wrote. That might be difficult. It might be very difficult for someone who's just learning English or who's even just intermediate level. Maybe you think, Hemingway's novel is too difficult for me. But they make easier versions. So it's the same story, but they use shorter sentences, less vocabulary, easier to understand. So you can that's called a graded reader. You might find a graded reader for the Hemingway book. So you could still read the story, but it's an easy version. And the cool thing about graded readers, they have different levels. So they have like level 1, super easy, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, maybe level 6. 5 or 6 levels usually. And level 5 and 6 is getting, more advanced. You're almost ready to read the main book, the real book, right? And then level 1 is, obviously super, super simple, beginner level, right? I read a lot of those in Spanish. I like that. So there's a lot of them in Spanish too for people who are learning Spanish. So I enjoy those. I read a lot of graded readers in Spanish. So you could, and there's a lot of them in English too. So I recommend it, yeah. How to live, Dawer asks, how to live in the present moment. That's a challenging question. It's hard sometimes, right? It's so easy for our minds to wander, to look ahead to the future, thinking about. Some people tend to focus on the past. Some people focus more on the future. You have to just keep bringing your mind back to what's happening right now. I don't know. There are a lot of books about it. We could talk about it. I think meditation would be the short answer. You got to meditate. All right, I'll take 2 more and then time to go. I'm going to take my kids to the park today. Mission Francois says, I would like to get in touch with you. I'm living in Haiti. It's about my son. Contact me on gab.com. It's here it is on the screen if you're watching. Gab.com, AJ Hoge. Send me a message on Gab. Okay, a couple more and then we're ready to go. Joselio de Silva says, Merry Christmas to everybody from Brazil. Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you. Lokpam says, AJ, if you were in your 20s and you had $30,000, what would you do? That's a hard question. It's hard for me to say that. I don't know if I can answer that question. It really depends on your situation, your goals in life, your maturity. I think when I was in my 20s, but, I'm much different now. It's really hard to say. I don't know. I guess, looking back, I probably would have just used it for traveling, and I probably would have used it for traveling. I don't know if that's the best thing to do. Another thing to do would be to use it to start a business, right? Start a business, and then you got $30,000. Start a business that doesn't require a lot of money, and you could live on $30,000 for a couple of years while you grow your business. So that would be a smart thing to do. You could spend some of that on training and learning certain skills that you want to learn. You could just save it. Don't spend it at all. So you've got to decide that yourself. I don't want to give you advice because I don't know your whole situation in life. But those three things pop to mind. You don't need to spend it. Don't feel pressure to spend it. If you have $30,000 and you're in your 20s, somehow we get this idea, I've got a big amount of money, I've got to spend it. No, you don't have to spend it. Just what if you just don't do anything with it? Just keep it there for a while. Just wait. Wait until you have a real reason to spend it. That's good financial discipline. To learn that it's not just $30,000. Actually, this is a good question because it might just be $100 because I know I was this way when I was in my 20s, right? That even 30s. Anytime I had extra money, like it was this weird psychological pressure, this belief, this idea. Well, I've got this extra money. What do I do with it? Like I've got to do something with it. I've got to go out and spend it on something. Right? This is why we get in trouble financially. Why we have problems financially, because every time we make more money, we get a raise, we get more money, we just spend it. We spend more money. So you think, now, I need more money. So then you make $1,000 more. But what do? Do we save the $1,000? No, most of us, we go spend. We just spend an extra $1,000. Now we're spending $1,000 more. So we never get ahead. So, yeah, I'm going to give you my smart answer, not what I would have done. What I would have done is in my 20s, I would have spent it. Probably just traveling around. But I'll give you my answer now would be don't spend it. Practice financial discipline. Do nothing with it. Maybe a bank, right? But don't spend it. Save it. Just save it. Don't spend it now. Don't spend it for a year or 2 years or 5 years. Maybe never. Right? So just save it. You could do that. Okay, I'm currently learning from... Okay. OD said, following up. I'm currently learning from Oxford Booksworm graded readers. They are great. Good. Yeah, that sounds great. Fantastic. Very good. Very good. And, okay, I'm just going to... Miguel's agreeing with me about the Santa Claus story. Yeah, there's something about the Santa Claus story. I'm not comfortable with it because it's not true, right? And honestly, too, if you look into the... I researched it a little bit. Where does the Santa Claus story come from? The American version, right? The United States, that version. And a lot of it just came from marketing, like the whole fat guy in the red suit. Because Santa means saint. Santa Ana, right? Santa, whatever. It's saint, right? So that's a religious meaning. Santa Claus. The people say it comes from Saint Nicholas, so that's the real story. But if you look at the story of Saint Nicholas, a real saint, he wasn't a fat guy in a red suit. Okay, not even close to that. So, I'd feel more comfortable talking about the real story of Saint Nicholas. Maybe I'll research it and share it with you sometime. But that's so it's like celebrate a real saint. Maybe that would be good. Or like Miguel says, for Christians, Christmas has a very specific meaning. So for Christians, it's the birth of Jesus. So absolutely. So for Christians, to do the Santa Claus story, maybe doesn't make sense. If you, what might make sense is to talk about Saint Nicholas, but I don't know if Saint Nicholas is actually tied to Christmas at all. I don't know where that connection came from. But you get the idea. But even if you're not Christian, like I said, like I didn't grow up in a Christian family, but you can still, there are the whole festival, has deep roots that are even pre-Christian. And you can even add in and create your own family traditions, which we are doing. But I think that bringing in spiritual and religious elements and meaning and depth is important. And it's not just Christmas. You'll find that all of these traditional holidays, I think in most countries, they have a deeper meaning, right? Like Halloween is pretty fascinating. I did a little bit of a story about Halloween and some Randall Carlson's ideas about where does Halloween come from, right? Because, again, they've destroyed it. There's no meaning to Halloween now in the United States. Put on costumes and run around and get candy. But Randall Carlson has some really interesting videos about what he believes is the deeper meaning of Halloween, where it comes from. And it comes from, in his opinion, it comes from death. It comes from actually like an asteroid and meteor hitting the Earth, causing huge disasters, killing huge numbers of people, causing floods. So it's connected to some of the flood stories. And so it really is a Day of the Dead. And it didn't happen just one time, but possibly several times. Because, he talks about this, but that time of year, end of October, very specifically October 31st, November 1st, is a time when there's a certain meteor shower, meaning, right, there's a time when the asteroids and meteors, the Earth passes through, and when you can look up in the sky in one specific part of the sky and see them. And sometimes they hit the Earth, and sometimes they hit the Earth and cause huge damage. So his idea, his belief, is that Halloween comes from this. The reason we celebrate Halloween or Day of the Dead at that time is because, in fact, going way, way back in our history when we don't even remember now, because it's so far back that actually huge numbers of people did die from these meteors and asteroids hitting the Earth at that time of the year. And so these festivals are remembering that. And now we've forgotten that part, and it's just put on some costumes, right? Of course, it's the same with Easter. Easter as a Christian holiday has a obviously super specific meaning. Easter as a fertility holiday, which is where the eggs and the rabbits come from, right? Also has deep history and meaning, right? It's not just candy in a basket. Okay, this is the sad thing about our modern world, is that we've lost the connection to the past. We've lost in many places, certainly the United States, the deeper meaning has been lost in really life in general. Definitely within our festivals, we've lost the deeper meaning behind the festivals. And now they're empty. They feel empty because why? That's why Halloween just feels like empty. What's Halloween in America is just eat candy and party and wear funny costumes. Nobody knows why. There's no thought of anything deeper than that. It's fun, I guess, but traditionally, there had much deeper meaning. Certainly a focus on the dead, right? That's why. It wasn't just party time. Oh, so Anna says, but for Russian, it is like Santa. So that's interesting. See, I don't know. The Santa thing's worth looking into. So it'd be interesting to see the Orthodox connection. You guys can teach me about that. I don't really know about it. So quite interesting. Yeah, Anna says, I'm trying to get rid of this obsession of spending immediately all money that you have. Yep. Yep. I think that's, just maybe that's the number one thing I learned about money in my life that changed my financial life was, you don't need to spend everything you make. In fact, much better if you don't. Much better if you don't. Right? The more you can learn to spend less than you make, it creates a kind of financial freedom, even if you don't make much. But if you spend even less, in the beginning, I was not making much money at all, but I learned to live super simply. And my financial stress, I won't say it disappeared, but it became much less just by doing that. All right, and we'll end with this comment from Fernando Diaz again. It says, AJ, before the end of the year, make a show about what we have learned and what we are grateful for. That's a great suggestion. It's always a great sort of tradition to do at the end of the year. There's another one, right? To make New Year's a little more meaningful. Again, not just a party. Woo, party, get drunk, yeah. Right? That's what all our festivals have become in America. Party, get drunk, party and eat a lot of food. Sad. But anyway, we can do something more than that. And for me, this is what always New Year's is about. New Year's Eve and before New Year's, it's a time to think about the past year. What did we learn? What problems did we have in the year? What challenges did we have? And let go of all of that. And then New Year's, so January, to look forward. Okay, now what did we learn? What are we going to do for the next year? How will we live our life during this next year? What are our goals for the next year? What's our mission for the next year? Right? So that makes New Year a little more meaningful. Gives you a purpose for those New Year celebrations. All right, then. Thank you all so much. EffortlessEnglishClub.com is my website. Join my VIP program or any of my other courses. And yes, I'll do another show before the end of the year. Lots of love to you. Bye for now.